لله رب العالمين الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور وسيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected enemy Shaitan. With Allah's name, most merciful benefactor, most merciful redeemer, all praise is due to Allah. We ask forgiveness from Him, we seek help from Him, we repent to Him. We seek refuge in Him from our weaknesses, our own bad deeds, and I bear witness that there is no deity except Allah alone. He has no partners. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. In the Quran, Allah has a section in there where like a shahada, where it says, Allah says, "Kul innani hadani Rabbi ila salati mustaqim dina kiyama bilata Ibrahim hanifa wa ma kana minna mushrikin." In that ayat, Allah says, say, Kul, say, I have been guided to a way that is straight, the religion of right, the path traveled by Ibrahim, the upright one. And he chose or established or put gods with Allah, or even have any relationship with anything that appeared to be a deity. So there'll be no misunderstanding. There's a very important part about Ibrahim that we all must pay attention to. And I know we pay attention to the entire Quran, but we must pay attention to some things a little deeper. And Ibrahim is one of those characters in the Quran, one of those that Allah references. Because Ibrahim shows a progression. And the progression is very important. It shows a progression from an individual into a community. And it lets us know that the first objective, once we come into maturity, once we mature from children, from being a child, our first interest of development is to self. Self is your first development. And the way we develop ourselves is to put into practice those things that Allah has given us. Put into practice those things necessary for us to become an adult, a mature adult. And we put those things into practice so that they can bring us to that level of maturity. And once we get to the level of maturity, then we move into the stage that where Allah says in the Quran, He says that Ibrahim was a ummah. Ibrahim was a ummah. So Ibrahim went from the individual to the group. That's what every person has to travel through. Every person travels through that in our lifetime. We travel from our individual self. Once we reach that adulthood, after our parents finish with us, after our parents finish shaping us, our community shapes us, then we travel from that individual. We try to make it the best individual humanly possible. We give ourselves every quality we can give of goodness to try to make ourselves stand on our 2 feet as Ibrahim stood on his 2 feet. You see, in that, when it says Ibrahim was Hanif, Hanif just means that. It means standing on your own, standing on your own, and not dependent on something that's irrelevant in a way, but standing on your own, getting ready to make some decisions. He was upright. He was upright. And as we look at that, we see Ibrahim was upright and how that relates to us as an individual. We have to look at the qualities. And in that same surah, Allah also makes mention that He has created man, agents and vicegerent, created man to inherit the earth, inheritors of the earth. And He raised man in ranks, some above others, so that He can judge us by the gifts that He has given us. See, a lot of times we may look at that and think in terms of kings and rulers and presidents, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about one of us may be able to comprehend mathematics a little better than the others. Some of us may be able to be more of an artist than another, can draw pictures than another, even inclined to being a doctor. Each of us have gifts. And Allah says He gave us those gifts so that we can express ourselves through those gifts. And if we express ourselves through those gifts, that's how Allah is going to judge us on how we expressed ourselves through the gift that He has given us. Not that I have to worry about being a great basketball star, I have to worry about being a great doctor or any of that. I have to look into me and see what Allah has given me to express myself through. And if I express myself through that, then that's obeying Allah. That's following Allah. That's worshiping Allah. We can't worship Allah if we refuse what Allah has put in us. I've heard young people say how they may not like themselves because they think they was created negatively or badly. I've heard African Americans who would want to be Caucasians. I've heard different stories of women who want to be men, men who want to be women. It's nearly impossible. I say nearly because we all don't know everything, so we got to go by, leave some room. Nearly impossible for a person to believe in the Creator and believe the Creator created him incorrectly. If we believe that the Creator created us to fail, then what kind of Creator are we believing in? I would never accept that as a belief myself. And no human being should accept that. That your Creator created you to be evil. Created you with sin. Which means that if you followed that nature, what was in you, that your Creator put in you, you would be a sinner. You would be evil. That's why we have to grow into understanding on our own. We have to grow into understanding on our own because this world has been developed with a knowledge that's old. The knowledge is old. And when we study that part about Ibrahim and then connect it with our knowledge and understanding of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and how Allah revealed the Quran to him and why, then we can begin to gravitate to the idea of developing self. Now, Allah is not saying in the Quran to develop self separate from the culture. He's saying develop self to benefit the culture. It's two different things. A person could develop themselves and be an enemy to all that is around him. Just because he thinks he's better or think that's what Shaitan did. I am better than they. I'm better than that part of man. But you can develop yourself to be a benefit to man, benefit to helping the society, a benefit to making things better, but using those skills and ideas and concepts that Allah has put in you. What Allah has put in you. Use those for the benefit of yourself, your family, and the society. That's the development of self. That's the track that Ibrahim was showing us. And you see that clearly because Ibrahim when you follow the story of Ibrahim, you find that he rejected his fathers. He rejected the way of old. Now that don't mean that he said, "Oh, Father, I don't believe in you," and he disliked his father for that reason. That's talking about the philosophy that Ibrahim found himself in was not the philosophy he could accept. He allowed his own individuality that Allah had put in him to grow, even though it was in contradiction to that existed. See, so we see it works in both ways. Sometimes it's necessary to contradict that which you see in order to make progress through that. And sometimes it's necessary to contribute to what you see in order to make progress through that. See, progress is the ultimate key. Progress is the ultimate angle, ultimate goal. But sometimes you have to do as Ibrahim did and say, I just don't accept that way of old. And then Ibrahim trusted in what? He trusted in the nature that Allah created him. He used what? He used his rational mind. He used his rational mind to come to a logic. Because he was so convinced that the generations before him had come to the wrong logic. They came to logic. They believed in the logic of the many gods. They believed in the logic that man had to create with his own hands the image that he said was God. They believed in the logic that said materialism was God. There was a logic to that of their time. They followed it. But that logic had run its course. That logic had run its course, and by the time Ibrahim came into his manhood, his adulthood, his maturity, that thinking was over. Because Ibrahim was proof of the thinking was over. He said, "Lad." And he was respected, but he said the proof, and he said it was over, so he seeked in his logic. Now he searched his logic. He said, now, if that's their logic, and I see that's not what I want, what's in my logic? What is it? What is in me that telling me that's not correct what they're doing? What is it? What is it in me? So he searched. He searched for that answer, what was in him. He searched the stars, meaning he was using his rational mind. He looked at the stars and the moon and the sun. And he said, none of that is what created me. He said, the creator of me is greater than that. So I worship that which I cannot see. I worship that which manifests itself in this reality. And I say that creation, the creator of that, is what I worship. He came to that in a logical way. And because he came to that in a logical way, Allah blessed him with understanding. See, Allah gave him understanding after he had said la to the material world and searched in his own self. Then that's when Allah gave him understanding, because he had reached that level of the spiritual growth. Because we all have it. You grow materially, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And Ibrahim had grown to that logic, so Allah blessed it. And he blesses you too, all of us. Whenever we move to the logic of being able to see beyond the material as the ruler, then we begin to deal on a higher logic, a higher level. And Allah blesses us with understanding on what we should be doing during those times. So when we look at Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we look at a man like ourselves, a man unlike Ibrahim in the sense that he was shaped by his culture. We looked at a man who was part of the culture. We looked at a man who was part of the culture, so much so that the culture itself, the people themselves, thought he was Al-Amin, the most trustworthy one of all of them. He was the better one. He was the one who everybody can trust. So what he had to do when he received the word from Allah was something special. Something special. And it's something we have to look at today too. What he had to do was to get the people to see that Allah, God, is one. Now, before then, the people's logic said that there were 369 gods, or 300 gods. So each family may have 6 gods in their own family dwelling that they worship. So Prophet Muhammad had to come and say, no, it's one God. And you can see why Allah revealed Quran to Prophet Muhammad. Because if he had revealed the Quran to somebody who was a thief, and then converted that thief, and then gave him the word, now how were the people going to believe that? In other words, the people had legitimate reason to deny what Allah had revealed to the people. If a person who you knew was a thief or knew was a criminal came to you with knowledge, you would doubt it because you know the background of the individual. So if Allah had brought the drunk or raised him up to be pure or raised a thief to be pure, and that thief had come to the people and said Allah is one, the people would say, you know what, we think you, no, we ain't got no reason to believe you because we know what you were. We ain't got no reason to believe you. So what Allah did, Allah got the one who was most trustworthy out of all of them. He got the one who was most trustworthy of their fathers, of their mothers, of all of them, and revealed it to him. And he said, Allah is one. And then when they doubted him, he said, why did you doubt me? When you know that I'm the one that tells the truth. When you are the one that says, I didn't say that. You said that. You told me. Why don't you believe what I say? You have no reason to doubt. You see how Allah took the doubt out of humanity? That nobody in the world has a reason to doubt him? Or to doubt Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the bringer of the Quran? Because they said he was, the best of all of us in terms of honesty. And what Allah did was to reveal the entire Quran to him. And because of that, we get a chance today to live our lives. Each generation have a life to live. You can't live the generation before. You won't be able to live the generation in the future. But you will be able to live this one. You will be able to live your life in its fullest. Get the most out of it. And bring it to the level of excellence necessary for you to benefit as an individual, your family to benefit, and all the people you associate with a benefit. And if you really are pushing hard to get the maximum out of you, your efforts might even benefit those who are not yet even born because of your efforts. With that, we want to take a short pause. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين. In conclusion to that thought, we want to just bring it to a point whereas the time in which we live is a very wonderful time. And it's a time that we should be aware of. All of us should be aware of this time, especially those of us who read Quran and study. If we study and get more knowledge, it makes us stronger in terms of our understanding. We're living at the end of a world, the end of time. See, that doesn't mean the end of this physical world. It's not talking about that. It's talking about the end of the knowledge that held up the world of the past. That world that we are exiting, we are actually exiting the world in terms of knowledge, in terms of cultures. That world had so long to live because the knowledge was temporary. It wasn't real. It wasn't built on natural evolution, like the creation. It was made up. That's why the Quran came when it did, because there were so many other ways and ideas out there, philosophies, that came from that old world, that have been rumbling around. And when you look close at this, when you look close at it, you see why Allah revealed Quran. Because this belief that man is part of, all these different ideas and concepts, had to come into a oneness. had to come into a oneness that would cause man to be able to cooperate with man. And the Quran was revealed at the apex of those particular philosophies that came out of the different books and the different producers, like the Bible and the Torah and all of the other books, and even Buddhism, and you can just name all the religions and philosophies that people had were philosophies and understanding that they got from their time. It's over. The Quran is here. It was revealed 1,400 years ago. But it wasn't all the way across the world. It was initiating itself 1,400 years ago in Arabia. In order for it to get across the world, things had to happen. The European had to come out of Europe. The African had to come out of Africa. All of these things had to happen in order for Quran to get here in the West. See, the Quran and the knowledge of Islam didn't just come over here in the West and fell out the sky out of some bird flew across. No, it came through a pattern of one civilization moving into the West, building up a civilization, and at the same time they brought with it those who had an understanding of Quran. And they and the children of those people, now Allah revealed Quran to them. This is why it's much easier for the people of this time to accept Quran now. Because genetically speaking, 20% of all the slaves who came to America or brought to America were Muslim. 20%. Now they don't say 20% of all the Europeans that came to America or Europe were Muslim, no. But there were some of them who started to believe in the Quran after they started reading it. But we do believe and understand the records show that 20% of all the slaves brought here were Muslim. So genetically speaking, the genes of those who believed in Allah at one time are here on this soil, here in America. It's their blood that sank into the soils of building up America. And out of that, when Islam started to evolve here and Allah began to reveal the Quran to this world, the Western world, those who were part of that genetic development was able to accept it easier and quicker. Not that they're the only ones, but it's easier. It's easier for those who are of African descent, of the slave descent, not just African descent, slave descent, to accept the Islam as it's being taught in the West. That's why we accepted. That's why we gravitated to it. Because it was part of Allah's plan. And because it was part of Allah's plan, Allah only says kun. And it is. So with that, Rabbina Atina Fidunya Hasan Walakir Hasan Wakina. Our Lord, give us the best of this world and of the hereafter, and protect us from the fire. I mean, you come to son.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Shadu la ilaha illallah, shadu anna Muhammadur Rasulullah, hayya la salat, hayya la falah.